Roll back, Muisar. Greetings to our YouTube family out there. Greetings, roll back to our Sabian family out there. Roll back. Kabul. Welcome. Glad to see everyone. Glad to be back. We are back. We're back. Another discussion on Wu-Sabat. Another discussion about the challenges in which we face and how to overcome those challenges. That's what we're here for. We're here to solve the problem as those who have the right knowledge. So greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome. If this is your first time, greetings, greetings, welcome. As we always say, spread the word, spread the word, spread the word. Each one teach one, each one teach one. We cannot grow without the support. We cannot grow without the support. We're all obligated to spread this information. This is the good news. This is the solution, right? To the challenges that we're dealing with all over the world as melanated people, as woolly-haired people. We're facing the same challenges regardless of where we come from. So we're in this together. We're at war with adverse forces so that we can restore righteousness back to the planet the way our ancestors lived. This is what our goal is. This is what our objectives are. For those who do not know me, my name is Peti Sina Tebtu Re'e, and I've been over a 30-year student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher, known to us as Panabab Yananan. You see his picture right here, also known as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, who has been teaching us our ancient culture we call Wu-Sabat, also known as Wu-Nawa. It stands for those who make decisions based on sound right reasonability, based on the principles of Ma'at, based on the wisdom of the Hutri. Today they call it animism. In essence, the culture was about us being in harmony with natural nature. Our culture is about us being in harmony with natural nature. We lived according to the principles of natural nature. So when you look at indigenous cultures, what us as in Africa, you look at our indigenous cultures in Americas, you see that our culture was always centered around being in tune with nature. And we argue the world is in chaos, the world is in turmoil because those who are ruling the planet, Western culture, is totally opposite to nature, natural nature culture, which is why they don't have no problem destroying the planet with polluting the earth, polluting the waters, polluting the foods, polluting everything they can get their hands on. Unfortunately, it's a culture that's not connected to nature. And we say we're paying a heavy price. We're suffering due to the fact that we have adapted these foreign cultures that has no consideration or admiration for nature. As melanated people, as woolly-haired people, our culture was always about being in tune with nature, being mindful of natural nature. And this is what the culture of Wu-Sabat is all about. So I'm just one of many student teachers who have dedicated themselves to helping our people relearn this culture, be educated about our original culture, so that we can get away from living these foreign cultures, these adverse cultures that's based on exploitation, capitalism, socialism, communism, Marxism, fascism, all of the isms that's been plaguing the planet for the last 6,000 years. Pantheism, you name it. You know, and so Wu-Sabat is the way. It is the way of being in tune with nature again, restoring our abilities, and then we can really, really build an agreeable, positive culture as our ancestors did in ancient Tamaray, ancient, what they call Egypt, ancient Nubia. We had an advanced culture. We were responsible for ancient Mu. We were responsible for ancient Lemuria, Atlantis. We even had societies in ancient times in Antarctica that they're now finding out that there are ancient artifacts there. This is our handiwork, what our ancestors did, advanced cultures that we've gotten away from. We've forgotten our past. We've forgotten our past. And what we're teaching in Wu-Sabat is to teach you how to restore your memory of your ancestors and how we live. So this is what our discussions are all about. And before we get started, we always do a prayer. Our culture is based on a spiritual science. Wu-Sabat is a spiritual science. Prayer, meditation, concentration exercises, breathing techniques, all of these things are designed to help you develop yourself spiritually, to overcome the negative aspect to your nature. So spiritual practices are extremely required because it is designed to help you overcome the negative part of your nature. So we do our prayers in our Lahaj language called Sabaic, and then I'll translate it for those who are not familiar with it. You can follow along. You'll see the English version of it as opposed to the Sabaic version of it. For those who are familiar with the language, the Lahaj, I say it with me, right? So let's get started. Bador Kala Namasat Wufad called Mad Kasamun Chala Put Panan Safa Kawun Pa Sawab Wupa Tara Z Kawuna Nazula Laha Enkum Maneh Sabat Wu-Sabat Amah Hadayan Shafayun Maneh Salafu Wunataru Aju Layana Fasu Kum Afuk Shane Kawun Kuma Pa Sawab Wupa Tara. This book is the truth and the way. It was sent down for you all from Sabat Wu-Sabat, star constellation, as a guidance and a healing from your ancestors and overseers. Return to your own. Accept what is yours, the truth and the way. Anun tawa ankum lahe panan shafe un wu alaj. Anun tawa ankum lahe nasuinun. Anun tawa ankum lahe ashuk. Ankum at the salafunun. Anun at the kharat ukum. Anum talub nasar kuma. Anum talub nasar kuma. And so nun sayim nataro. And so nun salafunun. Anun at the munwapu. We thank you all for this healing and cure. We thank you all for not forgetting us. We thank you all for Ashuk. You are our ancestors. We are your children. We seek your help. We seek your help. Help us, divine overseers. Help us, our ancestors. We are Musba'u. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. All right. Jadeh Wawed. Jadeh Wawed. That means very good. Jadeh Wawed. All right, now before we get started, for all those who know, we always go over the core principles of our culture, Wu-Sabat, because all of our lectures, all of our discussions are centered around the core principles, because you must learn these core principles and integrate them into your actions and deeds. That's why we go over them. It's not about talking about Wu-Sabat. It's not about reading Wu-Sabat. It's about living Wu-Sabat. If we want to see the change in the world for the better, it is about living the culture, not just learning about it. We learn about it so we can learn to apply it. If we don't apply it, then what's the point? Right? What's the point? So that's why we go over the principles constantly until, like I said, each one teach one, right? Until we can teach all of our people to start living this culture, and then we're going to see change on the planet. Principle number 1 is Ashak. It stands for the power of love, divine love. Existence is based on that. Once we learn to embody the principle of Ashak, divine love, then we will collectively work with each other. We will stop looking for fault in each other. We will look for the positive in each other. And if you see the negative and you realize, okay, I can't deal with the negative aspect of us, but I'm going to focus on the positive aspect of us. See, the Ashak is what allows us to do that. When we don't have Ashak, we make excuses and we look at the negative and we create an excuse. I can't deal with that person, because you only focus on the negative part of them. Look for the good in others, and let's focus on that. Principle number 2 is resurrection. Our goal as students of Wu-Sabat is to become goddesses and gods again by learning to open your third eye again. Transforming yourselves from being mortals to being immortals, as your ancestors are. Once you do that, you're able to make communication with your ancestors on the higher dimensions. That's why it's so important. Principle number 3 is the wisdom of Dahutri and Ma'at. Dahutri stands for our divine mind, and Ma'at stands for order. We did lectures on all of these principles, so check out those lectures. Study them. Principle number 4 is relationships. As melanated people, we live of, for, and by each other. As Nagaro people, we always lived as a community, not the way we see the world is today. Everybody's in their own little individual cubby homes, their homes, and there's no community connection anymore. When you're so divided, it's easy to be abused. And that's why, unfortunately, we get abused around the world because of the division. Let's remember that our strength is working and building and living collectively together. Principle number 5 is morphic resonance / matrix. Morphic resonance deals with sounds, tones, colors, frequencies, vibrations. And matrices are the manifestations of those things. Principle number 6 is Leviathan. This is what we're at war with. We've been at war with Leviathan for the past 6,000 years. Leviathan is the moon culture, the culture of the dead. It represents religion, worship of the dead. Western culture is based on death. They rule by death, by military might and power. That's what we're at war with. Check out the lecture we did on Leviathan. Principle number 7 is soul and spirit. Your soul is your emotional force. Your spirit is your life force. Principle number 8 is health. The first key to health is a positive mind. As melanated people, we need a lot of sunlight. Water, the body's 70% water. Fasting, we recommend at least once or twice a week. The herbal diet, as Dr. Sabi has taught us. Exercising, right? Key to health. Rhythmic breathing. A lot of people don't know about that. That's key to health. Meditation, concentration, prayer, and chanting. As we teach, excuse me, health is not just what you do physically, but it's also what you do spiritually. Our people are having health problems because they don't know that. They're only doing half the things to give them good health. And they negating the spiritual aspect to health. One of the reasons why we have so many health conditions, because of our negation of that, because we don't know. We're the only ones that's actually teaching that. The master teacher wrote a whole book dedicated to that one concept, the science of healing, the importance of health. We had a book on it. Check it out. Principle number 9 is pa'ut. That's what we acknowledge as the creative force. Pa'ut. You can't add to the all, because where would you get it? You can't take from all, because where would you put it? All is, and we're connected to that creative force of natural nature. That's why our culture was about us being connected in harmony with this creative force. And then we know the next principle is SMAT, meaning existence is based on cycles, perpetual cycles. Moon cycles to sun cycles to moon cycles. And we were in tune. We clocked those cycles. That's how we told real time, by clocking the cycles. And we knew creation energy, we call it akach. It translated into ether by the Greeks, and today the scientists call it the quantum field force. It's the same thing. It's akach. It's the creation energy. As Sabians, we have 3 primary goals. Goal number 1 is to raise the self. Goal number 2 is to fight Leviathan. And goal number 3 is to work to build Sabbatia. And goal number 1, in raising the self, you must become born again, as the Christians teach, by learning the culture of Wu-Sabat and to live it, right? Give up the old for the new. We talk about this, give up the old for the new. This is how we're going to be better. It's about being better. All of the bad habits we learned here in the West, you got to give it up if we want to get back to being the people who rule ourselves. Give them back everything, as the master teacher has taught us. In doing that, one of your first goals is to correct your name, right? Give up the Western cultural names and take on names that identify with you as a melanated person, as an African person, as an indigenous person. Identify with your bloodline. That's key. You must correct how you look and dress. When it's appropriate, we have to start wearing cultural clothing that identifies us. Learn to speak Sabe. That's key. Language is key. That's why they made sure we're speaking their, European languages. It ties you to their culture. When you reverse that and start speaking our languages again, it ties us to our culture. And that's where our power is. You must be ready. You must study our doctrine every day to build your sound right reasoning skills. This is why the master teacher wrote so many books on how to do this and how to do that. This is how one becomes a better person, by living the culture of Wu-Sabat. And you know it by, or learn to live it by studying the doctrine. That's key. You must practice and master our daily rituals to turn yourself inside out. This is how you open your third eye, by doing the rituals, meditation, concentration, the chants, the prayers, speaking the language. And you must always be positive. You're not going to accomplish any worthwhile goal unless you're positive. Goal number 2 is to fight Leviathan. This includes working to free Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, promoting Wu-Sabat, become a student teacher, and fight the 6 strongest weapons of Leviathan, which are our ignorance. Leviathan feeds off of our fear, our ego, which is one of the biggest challenges we have as a people. It's all about the self in this culture. Anger and bloodshed feeds Leviathan. Our lust and desires feed Leviathan. And our lies and deception feeds the spirit force. Once you're able to give up these energies, these essence of us, then those negative spirits of Leviathan will flee. And then it's game over once we can get rid of that negative energy that we live by. And the third goal is to work to build Sabbatia. Family, we have to set up our own communities again, our own land. We work to support each other in business. We help each other reach positive goals. We help to build our culture. We must set up a landing zone for Parnathato in Africa, which means we need land in Africa that would be supported by an African government. Now, Ashuk is the key to accomplish all our goals. What it means to be a Sabian. A Sabian is someone who's thoughtful and cares. Someone who's helpful and honest. Someone who's responsible and hardworking. Someone who demands justice and honorable. Someone who's righteous and humble. Someone who's excited and cheerful. Someone who's loving and peaceful. Someone who's kind and considerate. Someone who's neat, clean, and orderly. Our purpose is liberation from adverse forces. 1, we must take action each and every day to free yourself of 60 spirits inside and out, which includes Black people who are possessed by those spirit forces. 2, acknowledge and fight 60 from promoting capitalism, the gay agenda, miscegenation, the so-called equality of the races, and racism, white supremacy. And 3, learn, live by, and promote the laws/rules of natural nature, and each one teach one. Word of advice: do not judge this doctrine by watching the behavior of Pandabab Yunanan nor his students. Judge this doctrine by the effectiveness of the information, aka information, that you personally put to practical use. This doctrine is based on self-authentication. Know that we are not preachers, but teachers who are dedicated to answering questions until there is a meeting of the minds between teacher and student, who then can work in unity, which is the only solution to our problems. What you do for yourself in kind depends on what you think of yourself in kind. What you think of yourself in kind depends on what you know of yourself in kind. And what you know of yourself in kind depends on what you was taught about yourself in kind. Quote, until the lion has the historians, the hunter will always be the hero. And last, the negative mind talks of what it can't and will not do for self and kind, always complaining about who they don't like or trust, whereas the positive mind always maintains the peace by not complaining about that in which they do not like, but focus on finding solutions to their problems, never allowing obstacles to get in the way of growth. Alrighty then. Now, today's discussion is black magic versus white magic. All right, the master teacher has addressed this topic in detail, and he's written about it. And so there's a book that's dedicated to this particular topic, black magic and white magic. And it is extremely important that our people understand what that is. Now, but what's interesting that is this particular book on that topic is a revise or a revision of this book right here. Okay, so now when we look at this book, hold on, let me show you. This book is called Breaking the Spell on the Blacks. Okay, and this particular book came out like in 2001. 2001, Breaking the Spell on the Blacks. And this book was about the science of black magic versus white magic. And so, this is why we're having this discussion, because our people really have to understand what does that really mean? What does it mean? What is black magic? And then what is white magic? And that's what we want to have that discussion about. And these two particular books are dedicated to that topic. And so that's what I want to go over, is to go through this information and then, do commentary on as we go through it, so that you guys will have a clear comprehension, the difference between these two sciences, because they're actually a science. The science of black magic. In ancient Kemet, we called it Hika. We call it Hika. There was 3 principles that we acknowledge existence. Hu, or Hu-He, which was the creative force of existence. And then we said Sia, that represented the mental perception, that existence came by way of mental perception. And Hika was the manifestation, the magical manifestation of existence. And so we identified the material realm as Hika, the realm of magic, because it creates an illusion for the observer, not realizing that even though you may think something is solid or material, not knowing that it's actually energy based. In order for you to know that science, you would have to be in tune with the energies of nature. And this is where the concept of magicians come from. Those who were able to manipulate the energies within natural nature, because they understood the science of what we call morphic resonant frequencies. This is the origin of magic. And so those people who were black skin, woolly hair, was doing this Hika, or this magic, and hence the term black magic. And then you have other beings who had blonde hair, pale skin, who was also doing this magic, and they was called white magic. So black magic was being done by those who look black with woolly hair, and white magic was being done by those who had pale skin, who look white with straight blonde hair. And this is the origin of the science of black magic versus white magic, which are based on 2 different principles, Moisar family. 2 different principles. The science of black magic versus the science of white magic. And so we exist in the material realm of magic that our ancestors called Hika. And we had schools, what they call mystery schools, that taught the science of black magic. Just like our opposites, the Caucasians or the Mukasu, they had their schools of thought that taught their science of white magic. This is where you get the famous people called the Druids. And their culture of Wicca, the culture of white magic. There's a science to it. So now let's get started. So in this particular book, the master teacher addresses breaking the spell. The reason why we talk about breaking the spell is due to the fact that the science of white magic has been used against us as melanated people. In fact, we're under the spell of white magic. And the only way to break this spell of white magic is to counter it with the science of black magic. But you have to understand the difference between the two. The difference between the science of white magic and how it works versus the science of black magic and how it works. This is what we want to talk about. So the master teacher says this. says they were able to execute this spell of a man or Leviathan by making that which was bad look good and that which was good look bad. They made dark, peace, and tranquility look and seem bad, and fire, lightning, explosions, and light look and seem good. You know that whole black is bad and white is good? When you look in their dictionary, everything black is negative. Everything white is positive. The devil dressed in black, the angel dressed in white. That's the science of white magic. And we know how powerful it is, or our people wouldn't be bleaching their skin. They wouldn't be blonding their hair, wanting to get light eye contacts. So we know they're using magic against us to get our people to hate what they look like. That's a science. And it starts by teaching this opposite, or I would call it reverse knowledge, is what they're doing. They teach reverse knowledge. That's why in their magic spells and rituals, they say things in a backwards tone. The language itself, English we're speaking, is a magical language. It's a white magical language. One of the reasons why we teach, we have to stop using their languages because it enforces the spell of white magic. When you speak another group or cultures of race of language, you enforce, because when you're speaking, language connects you to culture. Language connects you to culture. So when you speak a foreigner's language, it connects you to their culture. It connects your mind to them. It links your mind to them, and it puts them in your mind. That's a science. We used to know that. That's why language is about what? Spelling. You spell the word, spell. You hear it? Language itself is magical. Watch their movies. You cast spells with words. Words are tones. Tones are frequencies, vibrations. That's how you affect matter. That's why people can say things to you that you don't like, and it has an effect on you, your body, your physiology. Spell casting. Language is key. So we've been stressing for years. The master teacher has been stressing for years. You have to stop using their language. It enhances their spells on us. It locks our mind to them. And the worst thing we do is teach our children these languages. It's one thing us not being able to break the habit. It's another thing when we teach the next generation the language. They start as children, babies. We're putting the spell on them. So it says, so the Tamhu people look good and Nubian black people look bad, making it easy to accept a white God and a white son of God. They were able to control you so well because they actually bred with you and have gotten into your blood, which gives you the desire to want to be like them. See that blood mixing in our blood? When they invaded our lands, they raped us. They raped our parents. In slavery, they raped us to get their bloodline, their spirit energy into us, their ghost forces. And they do not allow, they were able to control you so well because they actually bred with you and have gotten into your blood, which gives you the desire to want to be like them. And they do not allow you to hate them or love yourself, which makes it harder, but not impossible, to awaken you from under the spell of self-hate. It's really difficult because we have their blood running through our veins, which means we have their spirit forces invading our minds. This is why we feel so comfortable staying under their oppression. because of their spirit forces put thoughts in our mind to say, it's no big deal. It's okay to stay with them. It's okay to work for them. It's okay to vote for them. We'll work it out. Let's create a rainbow push so we all can come together. That's the spell. That's their spirits, their ghost forces working through us. It's no joke. Then they created the Bible and books with all white pictures for you and your children. They make and have movies like Bible stories with all white people, from Jesus to angels. Plus you have Michelangelo's portrait, Creation of Adam, where God is reaching for Adam's hand, and they are both white. The Muslims did the same thing in an Islamic movie about Muhammad and his companions. All are white, and so are all their pictures. It's all religious racism. This is the origin of white supremacy, using their religion. What is white supremacy? When they teach that they're supreme. Well, who's greater than God? The image of God. This is the image of God that they have our people worshiping. What can be greater than the image of God? That is the ultimate or the epitome of white supremacy. They are supreme. The white man is supreme. God have our people worshiping them as God. I was in the Dominican Republic this past summer, last summer, and went into one of the churches. Dominicans, basically black people, with none but black people. And I went into the church, and all I seen was this white Jesus, them worshiping them. As long as you worship the white man as God, then how could you ever think to be greater than that? And if God is white, then what's the opposite of God? They teach us the devil. So if God is white, what must the devil be? Black. That's magic. That's called white magic. It's a very sophisticated and subtle spell, which is the cause of us hating ourselves. It's also the cause of us where we don't see no problem being controlled or ruled by white people. Why not? They're God. Right? They're God. They're the leaders of the world. Look at them. We vote for these people by the millions. We have no problem them ruling us. That's called white magic, where they put their image of God, and it makes you trust them, makes you support them, makes you want to be them. They have all the power. Why do they have the power? Because we give them the power, because of this spell that's on us. Very powerful, right? They have the richest men, all white men. You got like 8 white men have half the wealth on the planet. So they have all of this power. So they have the image of God of them. So they have power in the heavens, and they have power on earth. That's white magic at its finest. Who wouldn't want to support them? Who wouldn't want to be like them? They seem to have it all. It takes a strong mind to overcome all of this subliminal seduction that they put on us. It takes a strong mind to overcome all of this subliminal seduction they put on us. It goes on to say, this is to control you mentally so you would continue to follow them blindly without question. So do not alarm the sleeping God, right? The Nathar within, the true Egyptian. We have godlike powers, but we're suppressing our own abilities because we're slave to this white magic. The Bible is a fabrication of Babylonian texts from the original 7 tablets called the Enuma Elish and the Gilgamesh epics that bred the belief in a book that this Yahweh called Tammuz, the son of Ishtar and Dumuzi, along with a council of 46. And this right here is talking about how they created the Bible. And it's talking about when at one time You as the Nathar, supreme being gods, and were in direct contact with your own spiritual forces. This is when you knew, when our ancestors, they were in tune. They were in tune with the forces of nature, is what the master is talking about. We come from them. They have abilities and powers. We have the same abilities, but we don't remember because of this spell, this white magic spell. Always looking to white people. So you don't ever develop your own potential as black, doing your own thing, ruling yourself. That's what the spell does. It stops you from looking to yourself as a leader rather than looking to them, waiting for the next invention that these white men are putting out. That may be good for white people. I'm not arguing against that. It's just not good for black people because it puts you in a subservient position, always with our hand out, waiting for them. We come from greatness. But see the images they put in our mind? Wonder Woman, Thor, Batman, Superman, Ant-Man. Again, white magic, white supremacy, that they have all of these abilities and powers. But here's a true story, Mansa Musa. Now, they tell us now that this is one of the richest people to ever walk the face of the earth, a black African man. He's not a fallacy, he's real. And what's interesting about it is he lived in the 1300s. So what they're telling you about Africa, that it was full of wealth. You should hear the story when, they talk about him and all that he's done. The Empire of Mali. And then they talk about when he took this trip. This is actually a really good video to check out, actually. But it talks about when he took his trip to Mecca. And it said that he had like a caravan of 60,000 people that went with him. And he had 21,000 kilograms of gold that he traveled with. So obviously, you're talking about someone who had immense wealth, and his society had immense wealth. And that's what this video is about. So what does that say? As melanated people, African people, we came from greatness. Now that's something that they never taught us in their schools. They always teach us how great they are, not how great we are, because that's white magic. Black magic, you teach how great you are. You aspire to be great. You aspire to copy your ancestors. But if you never know about the greatness of blackness, then you would never have, think to copy it. You would never strive to be Mansa Musa. So white magic has to make sure you have no idea about your greatness. Question: do you think what would stop you from ascending to your higher self? What stops us are the negative forces, the negative mind. The negative mind, that's what stops us. The self-doubt, because we don't what white magic does, it puts doubt in our hearts and minds. It puts doubt in our hearts and minds. It convinces us to do things that are not in our best interest. This is why we drink alcohol. This is why we take drugs. All of our addictions come from those negative energies, spirit forces in us, and that's what's blocking your God powers. Once you overcome your negative desires, then your God powers will be restored. It's not easy, trust me. I've been working on this for eons since I've been in the culture, overcoming the negative habits. Why do we have all these negative habits? Because of white magic, because of them mixing their blood into us, and their spirits put these thoughts in our mind. Go drink that beer. Go smoke that weed. Go to that party you shouldn't go to. Go to that strip club you shouldn't go to. These thoughts are constantly plaguing our minds. Click on that pornography site. overeat, eat things you should not eat. These are thoughts that keep plaguing our minds. And they enforce that thought through the media because they have all of these commercials. You walk outside, you got all these billboards everywhere. The goal is to control your thoughts. It keeps you in a negative state, a depressive state. That's white magic. Always thinking about them, always having something they produce in your mind. You don't have blackness in your mind. And so that's blocking you from making contact with your ancestors because you're not thinking about them like that. They got you thinking about the white Jesus, or they got you thinking about Superman or Batman, or they got you watching a video studying what Bill Gates is talking about or what Elon Musk is talking about. We're constantly pulled to them, watching their news, listening to what their leaders say, Joe Biden and them, or what Putin is doing in Russia. They constantly have our minds focused on them. So how could you focus on yourself? You're constantly thinking about whiteness and what white people are doing. That's called white magic. Not to mention, we speak their language like I'm talking English. So the language itself connects you to them. That's the ultimate part of the spell, is the language. Let's see. So it's an adverse. The adverse spell is also in the atmosphere itself because Imam or Leviathan, which is broken down to Levi, which stands for law, and Athan stands for sin. Sin emanates it. So Imam is a ghost spell or gospel of spiritual ignorance and racial blindness. And the only way this opium-like hypnotic spell can be broken is with the right knowledge, the right wisdom, and the right understanding of yourself, your kind, and knowledge of others. The reason the spell has existed for so long is because the spell itself is hypnotic, and you are in a state of amnesia. Amnesia means we forgot our own past. We forgot our own black greatness, so we don't even think about it. And although many of you are waking up, you still need to remember or to re-know who you are. You have to restore your memories, the master teacher is saying. This science is called Nuwaubian, taught through the ancient Egyptian order. Only works with nature. So we're in a cycle. This is why this can only be done because we're in the right cycle. See, the moon cycle, which is what we just came out of in the year 2000, is what allowed white magic to dominate. The moon is white, right? The moon is white. The moon is a dead solar body. It represents the power of the dead, the moon culture. And so when we're in a moon cycle, it gives power to the death forces. These forces that feed off of death, suffering, and bloodshed. And the Mukasu, the Caucasian race, are the children of these spirit forces of death. And when they raped us, they put those spirits in us. And so now we're going around killing, raping, robbing, pillaging, cripping, because those same forces are moving through us. And so you have to have a spiritual science called Nuwaubian in order to get those spirit forces out of you. The reason why people haven't been able to do it because unfortunately, majority of us are materialists. We don't do anything spiritual. So how can you ever conquer the negative energies moving through you? That's how white magic works. White magic works by keeping whiteness in your mind. They don't give our consciousness a break. And think about it, because we watch so much of their TV and cinema or on their internet or whatever, when we go to sleep, we even dream about them in their world. How many of us are chasing money? Has their image on it, right? That's the power of white magic. So right knowledge, the right wisdom, and the right understanding can only produce right thinking for the Nuwaubians, the blacks. And right thinking causes us to follow the right way to liberty and equality through right words and right works. So once you embrace right knowledge of yourself and your kind, of who you are, then you start doing the right thing. But the reason why we don't do it, why? Because he goes on to say, right knowledge is truth, and truth is the best knowledge. Therefore, if information is the best knowledge, then the best knowledge is right knowledge. And information is supreme mathematics or black magic. It's our time to rule, which means you have to embrace the science of this black magic, to think black constantly. And you'll have a desire, you'll develop a love for blackness. And once you develop a love for blackness, then you won't think to harm blackness. You won't think to sell drugs to blackness. You won't think to serve alcohol to blackness. You won't think to pollute your body because you love blackness so much. The same way white people love whiteness. They love their whiteness, and that's good for them. That's good for them because white magic gives them power. But black magic is what gives us power. So you got to fall in love with blackness. But we're so quick to turn on each other, to harm one another because of the spell. So question, what is keeping you spellbound? Part of the devil's evil spell that has a hold on you are negative spirit forces, 6 ether forces, sympathy, petty, apathy, jealousy, discontentment, self-defeat, and inferiority complexes. White magic, that's what we call white magic. They put all that in us during slavery. There was a sister who wrote a book, Dr. Joy DeGoy. She wrote a book called Post-Traumatic Slavery Syndrome. The trauma that our ancestors went through, and then after so-called slavery in 1865, they said, oh, you're free. And we never got any rehabilitation. So when we were free, we were supposed to develop our own society again. Remember, we were kidnapped, we were invaded, we were conquered, and we were forced into forced servitude that they call slavery. And then they said, okay, you're free. You don't have to be forced into servitude no more. Freedom's supposed to mean, okay, we could do our own thing, build our own society. But what did we do? We went right back working for the slave master. So obviously, we weren't free. What happened was they was able to so-called free us or release the chains from us because they now had us mentally. We were now mental slaves to them. We had no concept of building a black society. You know, even when we talk about the Wall Street, right? The Black Wall Street, it was a copy of European culture. So our minds were slaves to them, meaning we wanted to do things like the slave master. That's the power of white magic. Where you see whiteness is great, whiteness is right, and you don't see blackness is great, blackness is right. So you're feeding their forces. You're giving them power. White magic. If you want power, you got to see blackness is great. Your ancestors understood that. I mean, so look at, I mean, these images right here. This is Amenhotep III. Image of a black man. And they built these images, right? This is his son, Akhenaten, the son of Amenhotep III. And they built these magnificent statues because we always would communicate with our ancestors when they transitioned and moved into a higher dimension. And they built these magnificent monuments. Here's Tutankhamun. This is the son of Akhenaten. You just saw. Black face. Even though white people try to say he looks like, it looks like, them. A nasty lie. You can see that this is the face of a black boy. They made these fake Caucasian images of him. This was in his tomb. This is an image of him. King Tut, black, jet black. This is an image of him. jet black. Black represented the deities to them. This is his mummy. You can see even in his mummy, it's the face of a black person. Period. We come from greatness. This is a temple we built, the temple of Karnak. You know how big this temple was? They say it was 200 acres, over 200 acres. The largest temple ever built. We come from greatness. This is what we're supposed to be thinking about, recreating our greatness, recreating our advanced society. This is the ancient America, the mounds. If you look at the mounds that we built here in the Americas, advanced mound complexes. But that's not in our minds. We don't teach our children to see the greatness of blackness, to copy and build great societies. That's black magic. But if you don't put the black magic in their minds, and we have them speaking of the worst thing we do is the language. Honestly, language connects you to culture. Language connects you to culture. Language connects you to culture. Language, the essence of culture, right here. Let's go to this website. Language is the essence of culture. You can't think black when you're using a foreigner's language. So if you move to China and you had to learn Chinese because you had to learn it to live there, or your mind is start thinking about the Chinese stuff all the time because you're living in their culture. Language connects you to culture. That's key. This means, although those negative spirit forces of white magic are within many of the captives, the black people, they work against blacks because they are allies of the captor. They really think they can trust the Tamhu, the ghost man. Although many captives, which is Negro, which stands for necro, which means dead, are willing helpers or allies of the 16th force, they will only be used by this force for those that follow the white ghost image, are compelled to do the very things that are preventing their rise from their bondage. When we work for them, we're working to enrich them, to keep control over us. So we have to be under a spell to keep doing this. Because we work for the very people that keep us in domination. It is a very depressive position for a race of people to be in, having forces within self constantly working against self and kind. The spirit forces, we're possessed by their forces. Again, remember, they mixed into our blood. So their spirits are moving through our minds. That's why we have all of this negative thinking. This force is called Ra'ah in the Hebrew Torah or Bible, the disagreeable or negative side of will, not to be mistaken for the Egyptian deity of the sun called Re or Ra. Our own force, right? Our spirit force is the sun. We were always connected to the sun. Our spirit energy comes from the sun, unlike theirs. They tried to deceive you. The words look alike, but that is the position of the oppressed. And the only way to destroy the negative forces that maintain that position is to destroy the negativity and the ignorance that those forces, negative forces, live and strive on, such as the bright light and white magic. The acceptance of right knowledge is the solution, which leads to right thinking, and right thinking leads to right actions and breaking away from their fire forces. Nubians or the new beings, blacks, do not just read this scroll and others of the right knowledge series, but study them. That's the key, family. This is one of the reasons why we yet to see change, because we reading this information, but we're not studying this information, analyzing the information like a scientist, and then putting it like a scientist come up with a hypothesis, and then you put your theory into practice to make sure it works, to make sure it's effective. This is one of our biggest challenges. We're not looking at the knowledge as a science. If we did, we'll begin to see change. Well, you can't read these books like it's a magazine, but that's what's been happening. These scrolls are dedicated and designed to offset and help destroy the negative Negro or the necro, the dead black. That means necro means dead, death, necrophilia, necromancy means death, black death, and the slave minds amongst you. The spell of ignorance, right? We're ignorant. We don't know anything about ourselves. And a lot of our people don't even care to learn. They're so caught up in white magic, they can't think of blackness. It's taught to us by the slave master with his white magic through Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Also through other white religions of a spook or spirit or ghost worship, which is their spirit force, not ours. Right? So they have us worshiping their spirit forces. And so we don't understand the science of worshiping another race of people's spirit force, whether it be, the Chinese or the Hindus, or you can, last thing one should ever do is worship a god of another race of people, because it makes them the power, the spirit power over you. You're calling on them. And when you do that, you literally cut off the link to your own ancestors. That was a science we used to know. Question. Tell me more about right knowledge. Right knowledge organizes and unifies the minds of Nuwaubians, Nubians, Egyptian Moors, called black people or Negroes, African Americans, and others individually and collectively, right? So right knowledge helps us individually. It puts your mind right. And once individually we get our minds right, we can come together collectively. If knowledge is not to be confusing and thereby effective, then it must be in sequence. Knowledge received must be in an organized sequence in order to put the mind in order and unity. One purpose of these scrolls is to help organize and put the minds of Nuwaubians, blacks, in unity and order enough to qualify for your effective spiritual science called Nuwaubu. Black magic is for black people. It will clear the fog and your single eye will reopen. Your third eye will reopen. Your third eye will reopen if you do the spiritual work. That is the only way to restore your black magic power, by doing the spiritual work, the rituals, the prayers, the chanting, things that we teach to connect to your ancestors who exist on the other dimension. When your third eye opens, it creates a direct communication with them. And that's when you get the real science about black magic. And you'll get the real science how to counter the white magic forces that are dominating the planet. But this is what has to happen, or we will continue to be ruled by white magic. You have to develop yourself spiritually. You have to develop yourself spiritually to the point where you're able to open your third eye, but your third eye will not open and you will not be able to communicate with your ancestors if you still see the white man as God, if you still have a connection to their whiteness. You have to fall in love with blackness. And when black people are doing something bad, you don't cast them out. You figure out ways to help our people, not cast them out, because that's what we do now. We don't like someone. We so quick not to like somebody, not to trust someone who's black. Realize, we just said it. I just read it. They're possessed. They're possessed. Our people are out of their freaking minds. So we don't have to be so harsh with them. I'll always stay in their situations. We still have love for them. It doesn't mean sometimes you can't help them. Sometimes you can't help them, but don't have a disdain for your own race is my point. When you have a love for blackness, then you want to do anything and everything to help your people. The same way we're doing damn near anything to help white people. We have to reverse that. Because white people own and control everything, obviously we're forced to work for them to make money, but we're supposed to take that money and begin to reinvest it into blackness. And that's what we're not doing. Investing it into ourselves, investing it into our children, investing it into our communities. This is what we're not doing. Why? Because we don't have a love for blackness. That requires a black magic to love yourself, to have a deep love for blackness. Again, the same way white people have a deep love for whiteness. Chinese people have a deep love for Chinese. But black people keep talking about this rainbow this, rainbow that. Always want to include others rather than having a deep love for blackness, and stop messing with foreigners and work with each other. Then the power will come to us. But you have to develop a strong love for blackness. And you do that through the rituals. Then your ancestors will contact you. Why would they contact you and you don't love them? Because they're black. You have to have a love for them. So your third eye will reopen, meaning clear vision will return, and you will see again. Nuwaubian and the forces and powers there are liberty, equality, justice, rightness, and proper survival for Nuwaubian blacks everywhere. Nuwaubian and the powers that make it effective in binding are the equalizers for black folk. Egyptian Moors, in all fields of necessity and endeavors in which other races offer contest. The liberation forces for Nuwaubian blacks are not Caucasian and their Tamhu form of Jesus or their Lord, their Allah, nor their spirit power names of any other race and their gods. The liberation forces of Nuwaubian blacks are non-ether, whose scientific name is NoopooH. That's the name. These are the beings you call on. Beings that look like us. These are our spirit forces, and they are alive. They're not dead. The Riskians, the Natharu. Why you think in ancient Kemet, Egypt, they built all these big statues of your ancestors, so you know what they look like. Our people are in religions calling on unseen spirits that they don't know what they look like. They have no idea what their Jesus really looked like. And what's sad, the image they have is the white Jesus I just showed you. And that's what they're calling on and think they're going to get some kind of help. White Jesus help white people. That's white magic. What is Negro mentality? Negro mentality is negative mentality, a slave mentality. The very word is necro, which means dead, or negro, or negra omega, means black death. The Negro negative or slave mind is one regardless of how free you think you are. If you don't take control of your life, you are dead. One who is in mental slavery knows no more or little more than what the Tamhu or the Mukasu Caucasian, the cursed albino seed, has written for public reading and spoken for public hearing. The Negro mentality knows no more or little more than what the Tamhu and his or their Negro helpers have taught. This is what I call a synthetic education, which breeds a synthetic mind. Your slave master will never teach you what you need to liberate yourself. Your adversaries will never teach you what you need to know to liberate yourself. And so if you're getting all our education from the Europeans, they're not going to teach you anything above them. Why would they do that? Why would they teach you how to overcome their system? How to rule yourself? So how does it make sense that we keep going and then to be educated? Unfortunately, we just don't realize we don't need them. But this is the science of magic. The fact that we can't even see it. We keep complaining about oppression. We keep complaining about racism, right? We keep complaining about, they take advantage of us. The prison industrial complex, they putting us in prison. We keep complaining to the very people that has built their wealth off of our misery, off of our enslavement. Why would they ever change their policy? But we keep complaining. Why? Because of white magic. You're under a spell. Our people are under a spell because they have no love for blackness. If you had a love for blackness, you would run so far away from whiteness as you possibly can. We would be working with each other every day, trying to come up with a solution. How do we fix this problem? How do we solve our problem? We would stop asking them and come to us. But we don't do that. Why? Because we have this negative mind towards us. I can't trust you. I can't trust that Negro. That's why. That's keeping us divided. And those are the negative spirit forces in us that puts that mind of not to trust blackness. Question: will these scrolls really help? Yes. If a person has Negro negative or slave mentality, these scrolls will help him or her get rid of it, provided the person not just read, but study these scrolls and accept the facts therein and herein. You see that? You can't just read these scrolls, and that's how people do. This is not a source magazine. This is not no novel like Harry Potter. You have to approach this doctrine like a scientist, analyzing word by word, analyzing what the words are really saying and how to apply it, or you're not going to see any results. And that's been the challenge with us. We aren't seeing effective results of liberation because we haven't taken on this black consciousness, the black magic of falling in love with blackness. The same way white people fall in love with themselves. Why else do they keep making themselves these they're the hero of everything? They constantly put images of themselves, right? They're Wonder Woman, they're Thor, they're Superman, they're Batman, they're Ant-Man. They're in love with their image. Well, if you want power, you have to fall in love with your image. You have to have your children fall in love with themselves. And then they would want to aspire to be like Mansa Musa. They will want to aspire to be like Amenhotep. These are rulers, powerful rulers. They're real. They're not fiction. This stuff is fake. That's fake. Our ancestors, they're real, and they have real powers. But if you expose your children to this, right, this will overpower this. It's going to be hard for children to fall in love with this because the media dominates these images, the image of white greatness. It dominates the media. Magic of Hollywood. Magic. White magic. Hollywood. Disney. Magic Kingdom. Right? Magic Kingdom. They know what they're doing. It's a science they're using on us. Who doesn't want to go to Disney World? Right? The world's most magical celebration. Magic, spell casting. To get you to fall in love with their image, their stuff. If you want to counter white magic, we would have to do the same thing. See the black couple in Magic Kingdom? That's the spell. Little black girl thinking she's a white princess. That's the power of the spell. If you don't do anything to counter it, your children are fair game. Our children should have no access to any of this imagery. We have to create our own so that they can fall in love with blackness. As long as you allow them to fall in love with the image of someone else, then they're going to want to grow up to be a part of this. And that's why we keep losing generation after generation. And we're going to lose generation after generation until we teach our children to fall in love with blackness. And this is the reality of our future. They said the median wealth of Black Americans will fall to zero by 2053. What's that? We're in 2023. That's 30 years from now. We won't have no money left. Why? Because they're going tech, high tech everything. They're automating everything. Robots going to be doing everything. Now when you go in McDonald's, robots take your order. You go into what's that? Walmart. You got a self-checkout. They don't need cashiers no more because they got the robot machines. Everything is going automated. They don't need us. They got the new robot slaves. And being that we're nothing but a labor class in America, we ain't going to have anything. That's the future of serving white magic. Of training our people to look to them to solve our economic problems. You have to train your children to love blackness. That's black magic. You got to train them to love blackness. That's the only way, family. The Hika Kasut, which is the Caucasian, do not and will not teach others beside their own race any real knowledge about universal powers and forces would enable others to rule themselves. Moreover, other races are not going to give woolly-haired black people real universal knowledge and black magic because real spiritual and universal knowledge is where real ruling power is found. And exercise. Your power is through spiritual science. Your power is through spiritual science, but you have to have your spirit science. It's called black magic. What do you think chemistry is? Tapping into elemental forces. The Caucasian built his cars, built his trains, built his guns, built his airplanes, understanding chemistry. Chemistry. Chem, black. They got that for one. Alchemy, chemistry, the black arts, the science of elemental forces. They use white magic without science that they learned from us because they use it for destructive purposes. Alchemy, alchemist, Egypt, the black lands. You get it? Black magic, black science. It's a science. It's a real science, a real spiritual science. 9 ether is a real spiritual science. And it's an ability for us to harness great power. Great power to make contact with these beings. These are powerful beings throughout the multiverse. But they're not going to talk to anybody that loves whiteness. You have to fall in love with blackness and want to help blackness and want to help and build blackness before they communicate with you. So the master came here to teach us how to love ourselves again and to feel sorry for our black people that are crazy. Feel sorry for them. And we got to come up with a strategy to help them. Not write them off. The Mukasu, the Caucasian white magic, teaches you to write off your own. We have to become responsible again. But you have to love blackness. Once you fall in love with blackness, then you can communicate with them. Then your powers will be restored. This is what the master teacher has been teaching us over and over and over again. Fall in love with blackness. Then you would want to work with blackness. You will have a disdain for working for whiteness. You won't feel comfortable working for whiteness. You'll find out you have a burning desire to figure out how do we work together? How do we solve our problems together? But you first have to fall in love with blackness. This is something key. The Tamhu ghost man may have knowledge of, yet still cannot exercise this spiritual power on their own without the help of self and kind, right? They feed off of us. They learned this science from us, and then they turned it against us, he's saying. Let me add, they have no power over you unless you or one of self and kind gives it to them. Just as vampires can't come into your home unless you welcome them. Stop trusting them. The same Negroes, dead blacks, give them their power by worshiping their gods, Allahs, and their prophets, apostles, angels, and image. This must stop for us to regain our own power again when we ruled ourselves in ancient Tamaray. Apophis, race of demons, you all living by white magic, and black folks should live by black magic, but they don't. They all live by white magic, a spell of ghosts, gospel, under the white Indo-Aryan religions. If they had any real knowledge, they would be exercising these principles now, right? The principles of black magic, to love blackness, to contact blackness, to develop, to make contact with your black ancestors. Stop calling on these spook spirits of these religions. Millions upon millions of our people are following these religions, calling on the white Jesus, the white Muhammad, the white God, and think we're going to have some power. You're not going to get no power from calling on white spirit forces. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Question, will education free us? Answer, no. Occupational, professional, and technical knowledge is what you need and should have. But you need more than that in order to be free. And as gods, gain and have ruling power, right? So, yes, many of us have their degrees. We make money in their society. That doesn't free us, right? Bill Cosby. That doesn't free us. R. Kelly. That doesn't free us. Michael Jackson. The minute you do something they don't like, you violate their rules, and it's always something with sex, right? With us, they take away your money and your power. Money is just, you make that just to, pay your bills, but you better be working on a plan of blackness to get away from them. And when you love blackness, we'll work together. Guys, I've been asking people to support what I'm doing with NoopooH, our own social media. Why can't I get anyone to support it? We're supporting the social medias of the Mukasu, but we won't help invest in our own. We got to nitpick our own. We have no problem investing in them. How can we ever grow anything if we don't invest in it, in our own, those who have ideas? But it goes back to supporting blackness, fall in love with blackness. Then we'll want to support blackness. Occupational, vocational, professional, and technical knowledge are not sufficient to eliminate Negro negative and slave mentality. Negro or negative mentality or negative mind is one in which is void of real universal knowledge. Knowledge about time and origin of universes, stars, planets, satellites, origin of oceans, mountains, vegetation, time and origin of races, cultures, and what each race is supposed to represent. Negro mentality is void of its own true spiritual science, and the powers which maintain a race's spiritual science are those that create a racist culture. We will be able to create our culture once we understand our origins. Remember our past. Remember, we're suffering from amnesia. We forgot how great we are. We forgot how great we are. Once you remember that you come from greatness, like someone like Mansa Musa, once you remember you come from greatness, then you want to recreate that greatness. You're not going to have a desire to recreate that greatness if you don't have no connection to it. Our children want to work for Google. Our children want to work for Microsoft because they see them as great. The media keeps promoting Elon Musk. Our children want to work for them. As long as you show your children another race as being great, then that race will always have power. And if that's the case, then we shouldn't complain about when white people abuse us, when they shoot us down, when they beat us down. Think about those black cops, for those who know, that killed the black men. Black people under a spell. We kill each other for them. That's a spell. We don't love blackness. Once you fall in love with blackness, you'll never try to harm yourself. You always want to help your people. If someone is sick, needs mental help, you try to get them mental help. You're not going to kill them or put them in a cage. Question: who is our true teacher? Answer: your true teacher is one that can give you the universal knowledge that informs you about the governing codes and cycles of all existing and living beings. One that can inform you of mankind's white magic, spirit forces, and the ones that are for or against you as man god or spirit force. Black magic, that is for you. They made black magic sound evil because they fear it. You are black and have miraculous powers when you learn how to use them again. Real universal knowledge must answer the knowledge questions: when, where, what, who, how, why, and nature of. That is, whom a thing is for or against. The Son of Righteousness, which is the Master, the writer of the scrolls entitled the Right Knowledge series, a man, God, supreme being. That's the master teacher who foretells the future and it comes true. It's qualified by the forces of nature, the nine ether forces that created and grew this planet. Through the black science of Nuwaubian, you will receive disclosed universal knowledge, unveiling the past, emphasizing the present, and a blueprint of the future. What Amanubi, or the Okta, called a Tumere right is meant to destroy the barrier between woolly-haired Egyptian Moors or black people and their spiritual science and heritage. In general, universal forces cannot beneficially and effectively work for you and with you as long as so many minds amongst you are so negative or in opposition to your own kind. And negative minds attract negative forces of white magic. And those negative or opposing forces destroy you and cause you to destroy yourselves. Just like when the light is cut on, it overpowers the dark. Yet the dark still exists. But only a dark hand can cut on the light, or it would not have been totally dark. So you see that, family? As long as we keep, the negative mind, and we already know how many of our people are negative. That's why we harm each other. Those are the negative spirit forces, the white forces, the ghost forces of death moving through them. And we have to develop strategies to get these forces out of our people. First, by being the example. You conquering your negative nature, you conquering your bad habits, you overcoming your desires, because that's what those negative forces put in our mind: lust and desire. This is why you see me. I always talk about the principles of the culture, right? And what do we say about Leviathan? Right? Fight against Leviathan. Leviathan, the six strongest weapons of Leviathan is our ignorance. That's why our people, they ignore that. They don't even study their origins, their culture. Ignorance. They don't know anything about themselves. So many of our people fear. We fear the white man. That's why we serve him. Ego. Our people are obsessed with ego. They always think about themselves, which is why they don't love. We don't love our race because we're so self-absorbed. Always worrying about us, themselves. Anger and bloodshed. We got a lot of anger in the black community. All this black on black crime, lust and desire. We're slaves to fun and folly. We're big now in the porn industry. We're big now in all forms of entertainment to feed our lust. The overweight, the bad eating, lust. And we now lie and deceive just like the Mukasu, the Caucasians. We learn from the best. That's what the spirit forces in us possess us to do. This is not who we were. This is what we became. This is not who we were. This is what we became. We now act like our oppressor. And you have to, those who are strong among us can overcome this negative forces. Listen, anyone who has a bad habit, right? You learn to resist that bad habit. 30 days, the bad habit goes away because the force that's feeding the bad habit, if it can't use your body as a host, it flees, it goes away, it dissipates. So you have to use your willpower to overcome your negative habit. That's why we keep saying, study the doctrines. It's like a medicine. Research it, analyze it. It's like a medicine. It keeps your mind pure, always getting you thinking about you have the power to overcome this. And we say here, Ashuk is the key to accomplish all your goals. Tap into the spirit force of Ashuk. That's through meditation, concentration exercises. So he says this resource is available to all Nuwaubian blacks who have abandoned the love of the image, mind, and body of the Tamhu, right? When you give up the white magic, you inherit the forces, the black magic power forces. Only then you will be in the right state of mind, nine mind. Once the love of all other than self and kind has left you, then the forces of nine ether will help you and never abandon you. You hear that? The forces of nine ether will never abandon you once you fall in love with blackness. If you turn back to the love of other than self and kind, the forces of nine ether, it will leave you again. You need a positive mentality to offset the negative. You need a positive mentality to offset the negative. Then you will have the brain power necessary to identify yourselves with the universal forces of nature. Right? We call it Ta, Mu, Nifu, Set. These are the forces, principles of nature. Forces of non-ether, and they will help you to find or obtain liberty, godliness, and justice. That's because your third eye opens and you'll be able to make direct contact with the masters yourself, and that's where the real education starts. The real education starts once your third eye opens and you're able to make contact, direct contact with the masters. That's when the real education starts. When you're able to make real contact. Just as there are forces that can foretell the future, there are also forces that can tell you about the past. And Atum Re, also called Marduk in Babylonian texts and Amar Utu in ancient Sumerian texts, the son of Enki, who is the son of Anu, has access to all forces necessary to retrace the past and foretell the future. They're talking about the master teacher. This fact made these scrolls possible. You can acquire more information on this subject by joining the ancient Egyptian order. This is how you develop your spiritual abilities through the orders the master teacher set up to train us on how to open one's third eye. Once you do that, one authorized and appointed by the forces of nature is given connection and access to the powers of Re, the sun, the moon, and the powers of the planet Earth, that he may take his place in the sun, meaning in universal affairs, right? You're connected to the galactic order, the galactic federation, and all of his kind who are able to learn, understand, and accept universal knowledge and facts as disclosed by non-ether will also be given the same connections and powers. We, all of us will inherit the same powers once we redevelop our spiritual awareness and abilities. It first starts with a love for blackness. It first starts with a love for blackness, divine love. Love your people, regardless how messed up we've been. Have enough love to want to see us solve our own problems. Have enough love to want us to see us solve our own problems. Not looking to foreigners to solve our problems. We must solve our own drug addicts. We must solve our own rapists. We must solve our own murderers. We must deal with these hard problems because we love ourselves and we don't want our children to be victim to it. So we have to solve our own problems. That's called black love. Once we reestablish that, then our powers will be restored because we'll have the desire to work together. Once you have black love, you'll desire to work together. You'll look for those who have the right mind, right? You can't deal with the ones who are weak in our community, right? Because they're too weak. They're slaves to fun and folly, right? So you look for the ones who are intelligent enough, who intelligent means they love blackness and they want to work and build something for us. But it starts with first fixing yourself, developing yourself spiritually. That's where it starts. It starts with the self. We live by the principles of Ma'at. The war or the showdown between right and wrong that occurs in each individual. It is not a physical battle. It's a struggle with the heart. It's your heart center, your spiritual heart center, family. That is weighed against the feather of Mat, who is also the Nathartat, the supreme being of order. Your heart or deeds are weighed against the principles of Ma'at, which determines where your soul will go after judgment. We live by the principles of Ma'at. I did a whole lecture on that. The principles of Ma'at. Ma'at stands for order. In order to have order, you have to have balance. In order to have balance, you have to have justice. In order to have justice, you have to have righteousness. Righteousness is knowing how to do the right thing. How do you get this right knowledge to do the right thing? You have to have the wisdom of Tahuti. The wisdom of Tahuti taught you or teaches you the principles of natural nature. Once you know the principles of natural nature, then you know how to do the right thing. When you do the right thing, then you can make sound judgment decisions. When you make just decisions, you create balance. And when you have balance, you have order. And when you have order, that's when you have harmony. That's our culture. That's our culture, family. So this book I was reading, like I said, came out in 2001 when a master teacher was teaching us about the science of black magic versus white magic. And then this is an updated book that dealt with the same subject matter, black magic versus white magic. So you know now black magic is about falling in love with blackness. Falling in love with blackness. And stop loving whiteness. Let white people fall in love with whiteness. Let Chinese people fall in love with Chinese stuff. Let East Indian people fall in love with East Indian stuff. Black people, you have to fall in love with blackness. And then you want to do everything for blackness. You want to help blackness. That's black magic at work. So you have to promote and advertise. That's the magic. The same way Disney World promotes whiteness. Hollywood promotes whiteness. We have to do the same thing for our own self and kind. That's the power. That's white magic. Form of propaganda, in fact. So this book right here, Lakum, my beloved children, if only you had ashuk, divine love for each other as I love you. See that? This book came out what? Like 15 years after he wrote that other book I was just reading from. And the Master Teacher said, if only you had ashuk, divine love for each other as I love you. He said we have to fall in love with each other. The Master Teacher said only love and unity will free him. Love and unity, and then we haven't fallen in love with each other yet. We keep looking at fault within each other. And when you find fault, because you're going to find fault, then we look for solutions to help each other. That's real love. Not cast them out, not condemn them. And if someone is not ready to be helped, so be it. Move on. Work with those who you can work with. But we have to stop condemning one another. If only you can treat each with ashuk and respect, as well as the planet and your own bodies. Our work here on this planet would be so much easier than it is with the interfamily wars passed on to you by the DNA of the Homo simian or the Homo canine or the Homo human beast, man's kind. If only you will help us to help you. Afafra e Ka'u, the Garo, African, Negroids, the unique ones, the first and will be the last. For you see, there is a 6,000-year-old spell upon the Nagaru, the African, the woolly-haired people, the world over. And it is a spell of sleep, spiritual ignorance, right, and racial blindness cast upon the Negroids 6,000 years ago by what became the religion of aliens who came into Africa and spread the religious disease and cast Pa Hajj Shalil, the spell of faith, taking away our ancestors' sight, third eye closed. Our third eye closed. When your third eye gets cut off, you cut off from our spiritual ancestors who gave us, who guided us on how to make decisions on this dimension. Soon as our third eye closed, we got cut off, and that allowed us fair game for these negative forces to take advantage of us. And then they cast their white magic spell, hardcore on us. It started with, hardcore within the last 500 years. That's why I read it before. I talk about this doctrine of discovery, right? The doctrine of discovery. In 1493, this guy, Pope Alexander the Sixth, he was the one casting a spell of white magic. This Pope, with his spirit forces, he put out this this law, right, for white nations. Hear what he said. I read this many times, and I'm going to read it again. This was 500 years ago, over 500 years ago. He says the bull, this is called the papal bull, the laws of the Pope, stated that any land not inhabited by Christians was available to be discovered, claimed, or exploited by Christian rulers, and declared that the Catholic faith and the Christian religion be exalted and be everywhere increased and spread, that the health of souls be cared for, and that barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself. White magic they taught about. Christianity, to bring the faith of white magic, to put white magic. The people, the indigenous people, us who are living black magic, they want to put white magic on us. The doctrine of discovery became the basis of all European claims in the Americas, as well as the foundation for the United States. White magic. The doctrine of discovery is the spread of white magic, the Christian God, the white Jesus. Don't you see it? Western expansion. In 1823, case Johnson versus McIntosh, the Chief Justice John Marshall opinion in the unanimous decision held that the principle of discovery gave European nations an absolute right to the New World lands. In essence, American Indians had only a right of occupancy, which could be abolished. So they were spreading white magic. Their God. They forced you to worship their God, the white Jesus. Or they killed you. And so they set up their economic empire. Right? Because we now buy and support their stuff. White magic. We buy and support their stuff. Worship them. So if you want to reverse what they did to us, then we have to start worshiping blackness again. We have to start loving blackness again and give up on the whiteness. Do for self and kind. That's the key. That's the key. Once you are no longer thinking, you are no longer creating, and thus you are not progressing, right? When you're not thinking for yourself in kind, you're stuck. That's why we can't do anything. We're so caught up in thinking about the European culture, we don't think about our own stuff. So how are you going to create anything for blackness? With the help of the Pa-Kakasu, Caucasoids, and the Leviathan, the God of the Bible and the Quran, the Nagaru, are hypnotized with a form of amnesia and can't remember how you built the pyramids or how to read your own hieroglyphics. You see that? We have the ability to store our memory. We have the ability to store our memory. We have the ability to restore our memories, but you have to develop spiritual practices. You have to develop spiritual practices. Right here, in this book right here, the master talks about it. This book is Actual Facts, number 28, The Neuroscience of Nuwaubian. You go to page 5. Page 5, he says right here, the brain acts like a holographic computer charged battery with many sarcophagus cells grouped, and your memory is stored in a higher drive called the mental, and you retrieve them or thoughts from the mental reservoir to your personal mind, and each thought becomes your own or mine, my own. Like a computer, you're linked to your etheric cord or code and can be tapped into and given a virus called insanity, or as they say, out of your mind. That is receiving thoughts from outside that can make you do things, not you. Your brain as a computer also can crash down and you are in a coma state, unrebooted. Others try to put their chip into your mind all the time, such as their religion's chip, or how you think, talk, act, or even look chip. Right? See that? See how the transformation from black to looking like the Mukasu. That's the image of beauty that we see. That's the chip. That's white magic at work. Wanting to be like them. White magic. Because we give them access to our minds. But you can tap into what they call the mental reservoir. It's a higher realm, the higher dimensional realm, right? We've talked about this before. You tap into it through the spiritual practices. And then it expands your consciousness, and you can access your memory, higher memories, lost memories, ancestral memories to restore to one. You can prove everything we teach. Keep in mind, your DNA is nothing but a copy of your parents, and their parents are a copy of their parents, all the way back to your ancestors. DNA has all the memory of your ancestors. But you have to learn how to tap into it. We've talked about this many times before. This is the only way to overpower white magic, but you have to love blackness. You have to love blackness, and you have to want to not serve whiteness anymore. You have to want to do for yourself in kind. I mean, that's the key, family. Non-ether forces first visit the minds of their posterity, which is descendants, because they know that nothing can be done right unless the mind is right. The mind cannot be right unless it has accepted the right knowledge. You are out of your mind and in his mind. You all share in a mental reservoir which vibrates on a fourth density. Everybody partakes in a mental plane, intellect, ideas, creation, etc. You vibrate on the third density. We vibrate in the third density. So you go back to the SPAC circle. We talked about this many times. We're in the third density down here. The fourth density, this is a higher realm. Our minds are connected to this realm. You can connect to this realm. And you can access information in this realm, the mental realm, when you go from 4 all the way up to 9. But in this third density, we're blocked down here. So you go back to this right here. This is why the master drew this diagram. This is the planet Earth in the middle, right here, right? In order to get to the fourth density, this is the 9th gate. Your mind has to expand up to this gate. This is how we leave this dimension. You can only connect mentally to this through meditation. You can do it through chanting, through the language. It raises your vibration, because all of this, these realms, these circles, these are realms within realms, and this is where all of the ghost spirit forces are. So you have to block them out of your mind and to focus. That's why meditation is clear the mind. That's how you block the forces, by you got to clear the mind. That's why they make sure our minds are not clear. They flood our minds with advertisement. They flood our minds with their image constantly, putting white magic in our minds. You have to do the reverse. You have to flood your mind with black magic. That's why we said keep reading the books, studying the books. It'll give you mental power to overcome the white magic they use against us. This is the key, family. This is the secret to defeating them. You don't have to get no guns to defeat them. All you got to do is get a quiet room, a black room, blackness, sit in blackness. The key is blackness. That's the key. Once you learn to get your body vibrating on an A tone, drop down to A tone. It opens up the portal to the F tone, the vibration frequency of the planet Earth, and the C tone, the vibration frequency of the universe. But you got to get your body vibrating on A. Our body is vibrating on an octave, on oxygen. The human being has to live off of oxygen. Oxygen. So that means oxygen is 8 on a periodic table. It's the 8th element. The A tone is the first element, hydrogen. So you got to drop your body vibration down to A. You do it every time you go to sleep. Your body drops down to A. And when the body drops down to A, that's how it separates. Your spirit then it separates. The problem is when you go to sleep, that means your consciousness shuts down. So meditation, what you're doing is you're teaching your body to drop down to A like it's in a sleep state, but your consciousness stays aware. And you put your mind in blackness. And that's how you begin to make contact. But it takes practice. It takes dedication. You can do it anywhere from 30 to 90 days of dedication. That's the challenge. It's been the challenge for me. It's no joke because of the distractions. But if we work together, if we support each other, it gives us strength. It gives us strength. We have the ability to do it, but the first step is to fall in love with blackness. Desire for blackness, the desire to rule ourselves. That's what black magic is all about. That's what it's all about. Not the stuff they show you in voodoo, not the stuff they show you in Santeria, none of that. As you can see, that doesn't work. That stuff is not how we're going to get power back. The real science is what I'm telling you. The real black magic is the love of blackness, supreme blackness, period. And to blot out the whiteness. That's the real science. And you start building things that reflect your power. We'll start building pyramids again. We'll know how to open up stargates and portals. We'll know how to travel interdimensionally. We'll remember how to travel back in time, forwards in time, backwards in time. These are abilities of the children of Melanite. The Melanite children have these powers. We have these abilities. But you have to get the whiteness out of your mind. White magic blocks our ability, and white magic puts desire in us to want to serve them. I hope you guys are getting the message. The difference between black magic versus white magic and how it works. I hope we made our point very clear. I hope you remember what's the future. They say for us, we're not going to have nothing. We stay in white magic. You're not going to have nothing as long as we stay in white magic. They have no plans for us in the future. All the plans they have for us is bleak. The wealth is in our mind. It's in our power. Make contact. Start working with each other. Start supporting black businesses. Blackness. Why you think? I tell people to support the website. If I can get if we can get 10,000 people to support this site, become members. It's what, $20 a year? 10,000 people, we can do phenomenal things. Can really build this up. Can't do it without your support. We have to invest in each other. We have to learn to invest in each other. That's the love of blackness. That's the love of blackness. That's how it works. Once we fall in love with each other, we will support each other's businesses. I try to get people to do the discounted membership. Basically, you pay for 5 years, you get one extra a year free, $99, a 5-year investment in the project. If we can get 10, imagine getting 10,000 people. Look how much money we'd generate. Then I can build the site out and can really do the things that we would like to do with the project. One of my ultimate goals is to create a reference encyclopedia so that's a resource for our children to learn about their greatness, their history. We'll have the money to do the research, to build up an encyclopedia like the Wikipedia that they created for themselves. We can create our own information source, invest in our own. This would be a portal for Black businesses all over the globe so that our people could come to this site, network with each other, buy and start trading with each other. This is a love for Blackness, where we start doing for Blackness. Always want to build up Blackness. We take the money we make from white people and we reinvest that money with Black people. That's what they do to us. They come into our communities, they take all the money out of our communities, and they go back to their community and invest in themselves. We have to do the same. We make money from them. We take that money and reinvest it back into our own. That's now you've fallen in love with Blackness. That's how you do it. It's not that complex. We come from greatness, guys. They're sitting there telling you, listen, they sitting there telling you Mansa Musa was one of the richest people in history. So they're telling you, you come from magnificent greatness. You come from wealth and power. Well, remember, they used to lie to us as slaves. They used to tell a slave, you have no history, you have no culture, you have nothing. That's what they used to tell us and teach us. Now they can't hold those lies no more. We gotten smarter. And we started researching our past and what they did to us. Remember, I said the doctrine of discovery. It was to get you what? To get you what? To worship the white Jesus. That was the plan. White magic. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. Right knowledge comes, the master comes, the opening of the seventh seal, and this was the beginning of learning about black magic and how great we were, how great we are, because they blinded us with white magic to love them, to build them up, to serve them, and we come from greatness. All righty then. With that being said, we're at that time, family. I hope you guys get the point. I hope we made ourselves very clear the difference between black magic versus white magic. I hope you guys see the power in it. I hope you see the power. Well, you should just know by looking at the power of white magic, how white magic has made white people great. Now just think in reverse. Do to take what they did to us and reverse it for us and flood ourselves with black magic greatness, where we're so overwhelmed we want to do things for black so we can restore our greatness. With that being said, we're going to close out. We always close out with our 9 o'clock namaz prayer, right? We do it in our Lahaj. Language is key. Language connects you to culture. Remember that language is key. Language connects you to culture. Remember that language is key. Language connects you to culture. Remember that. It's hard to break the spell of white magic because we keep speaking their language, and it connects us to their culture. Language is key. So when you start speaking your own language, it connects you to your culture. That's one of the quickest ways to start thinking blackness, because you're speaking it. Bade Kala Namasat Wufad called America Salmon Shalal Pa'ut Pa Takyud Anuki Jawef Pa Ashuk Impa Pa'ut Wu Kale Ashuk Kawun Jawef Nia Anuki Kasaman Impa Pa'ut Wu pa pa'ut kawun kasamun imnia. Anuki wahu ama pa pa'ut. Wu pa pa'ut kawun wahu ama nia. Naku kador naju ama kasamun impa pa'ut. Wu khabu ama muskasun. Naku kador kawan kale pafaf naku daya jawab pa pa'ut. Ama wasa ama dayani kawun lake bakui jawab pa pa'ut. Anuki yababi nafasni pa pa'ut kawun. Anuki pa pa'ut kador. Nakuk kador pa pa'ut amu. Nakuk amu. Lahehum menehnu. Lahehum menehnu. Ahumata karehum. Ahumata karekum. Ahumata karenun. Ahumata jawafnia. Ahumata niya wu anuki hum. Yaye ashukre amu asmu jayenu. Yaye nataru afuknun. Anunata mukrarukum. Yaye nataru afuknun. Afuknun. Yaye nataru nun. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Namazo wahu. Yaye mufaku. Yayehu, yayehu, yaye notaru. Yaye soye, yaye notaru. Yayehika, yaye notaru. Ankum at the pa mufaku. Yayehu, yaye notaru. Ankum at the pa mufaku. Wu anu at the mukratu kum. Wu ankum at the musanun. Yayehu, yaye notaru. Aro muklas num atum reye. Yayehu, yaye nataru. Namazo atu aron hu. Yaye muktamu afudnun. Ankum mane yake laduda muslafu nun. Wu muisar nun. Mane yake suwura paaba. Mane yake kawunun ka'u. Mane yake ata akhak. Mane yake kawunun bashawu damam. Yaye nataru muktamu nun. Aro muftanun. Anhu kawun manzam mane pa nataru. Aro anhu. Anhu kawun baba yananan. Aro anhu. Anhu kawun atum reye. Aro anhu. Anhu kawun haro. Hamazo talu. Yaye nataru muslafu nun. Afudnu mane pa mujwa'u. Afudnu mane gal ha'an. Yaye nataru afudnun. Mana saya khayara. Afudnun afudniya. Afudniya. Yaye nataru nun. Namazo rabu pa takmui. Nakuk talub takmui bi pa nataru. Mana pa laen lawi tenenu. Kaleh wananum atni at the lahe pa nataru. Wu kaleh namazo atni at the lahe kiya iyatum laye pa nataru. Pa sawa wu pa tarab. Panamas fa kawun. Pa sawa wu pa tarab. Z kawuna nazula laha ankum. Manamas bat wu masa. Ama hadayan wu dama Manamos lafukum. Wu nataru. Ajula yana fasukum. Afuk shine kawun kum. Pa sawa wu pa tarab. Pa hadayan wu pa dama. Anun tawa ankum. Lahe panan dama wu shafe. Anun tawa ankum. Lahe tem na suinun. Anun tawa ankum. Lahe ashukuma. Ankum at the muslafunun. Anun at the mukrarukum. Anum talub nasakuma. Anum talub nasakuma. And so nun kahen nataru. And so nun muslafunun. Anunata muspatu. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Yaye nataru nun. Yaye muftau. Yaye nataru. Yaye atum re. Yaye natar. Yaye nun. Yaye natar. Yaye nun tat. ya ye nathar tat, ya ye ha, ya ye nathar, ya ye hatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye kak, ya ye nathar, ya ye kaktat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye amun, ya ye nathar, ya ye amun tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye atum, ya ye nathar, ya ye shishash, ya ye nathar, ya ye tafaf tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye sabab, ya ye nathar, ya ye natat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye arastat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye asar, ya ye nathar, ya ye nababta hatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye satach, ya ye nathar, ya ye hara, ya ye nathar, ya ye hatwi, ya ye nathar, ya ye anaktat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye ahaharatwi, ya ye nathar, ya ye nafartum, ya ye nathar, ya ye mathu, ya ye nathar, ya ye bapti, ya ye nathar, ya ye sachem tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye hata haratat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye baibis, ya ye nathar, ya ye patata, ya ye nathar, ya ye basastat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye imhatap, ya ye nathar, ya ye hu, ya ye nathar, ya ye matat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye mahart, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye chafaf re'e, ya ye nathar, ya ye mishkinat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye re'e tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye chintimate to you, ya ye nathar, ya ye hika, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye ma'at, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye renen tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye shai, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye sashat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye mafdat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye sabach, ya ye nathar, ya ye anak, ya ye nathar, ya ye chanum, ya ye nathar, ya ye chanas, ya ye nathar, ya ye patata nun, ya ye nathar, ya ye soye, ya ye nathar, ya ye haktat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye amas, ya ye nathar, ya ye saraptui, ya ye nathar, ya ye atun re'e, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye dehutui, ya ye nathar, ya ye patata varat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye sakatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye ha, ya ye nathar, ya ye nehebka, ya ye nathar, ya ye sakar, ya ye nathar, ya ye ba'a, ya ye nathar, ya ye akar, ya ye nathar, ya ye imharatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye wapawatat, ya ye nathar, ya ye sakai hataptat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye meritat sakartat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye sayetat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye garatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye asainu, ya ye nathar, ya ye bahatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye chanem tat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye manaktat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye chamem, ya ye nathar, ya ye mahatwi, ya ye nathar, ya ye kabepsin and afaf, ya ye nathar, ya ye dabata, ya ye damata afaf, ya ye nathar, ya ye meritat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye nasat, ya ye nathar, ya ye imdadatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye nachakbatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye sachatat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye anaktat, ya ye nathar tat, ya ye dadad, ya ye nathar, ya ye tum, ya ye nathar, ya ye wahu, ya ye nathar, ya ye yasas, ya ye nathar, ya ye anach, ya ye nathar, ya ye apnuit, ya ye nathar, ya ye satat, ya ye nathar tat, Ya ye sakhatwi. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye imat. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye nana. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye emnuit. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye em sataktwi. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye mukdal tat. Ya ye nathar tat. Ya ye warahashafaf. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye maratwi. Ya ye nathar. Ya ye amun re'e. Ya ye nathar. Yehu Anu Ata Kalad Joef Pa'ut Nun Re'e Tun Re'e Tun Re'e Mun Re'e Amun 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 Wawed Jadah Wawed Jadah Wawed Jadah Wawed. All right, as we always say, we do the namaz, the prayers for our own spiritual edification. It's about making contact with your ancestors who are alive. You have the ability to communicate with them. It's about calibrating your body to vibrate or resonate with them, right? That's why we chant and we focus on getting to that A tone, to get your body vibrating on that A tone. And so we do the namaz, the prayers, and then we do the chant as I just chanted in Amun. And then after that, what you're supposed to do is go into a meditated state after that. To go into a meditated state, to quiet the mind and go into blackness. And now you want to listen to your ancestors, because as soon as you start doing those things, it's like a beacon goes off to your ancestors on the higher realms. They're now paying attention to you. They're literally paying attention to you. Right? And they're monitoring you. As soon as you start doing the rituals, as soon as you're doing the prayers, the rituals, it's like a communication beacon to them. And that's why you want to go into a meditated a state after you do the rituals, because now you're conditioning yourself to tune into them, to listen to them, to listen to their response, because they're now communicating. They're going to respond back. And once you condition yourself where you can learn to drop yourself down to that A tone, that's key. Remember, oxygen, you're vibrating at the eighth tone up. And you got to go from oxygen all the way down to hydrogen. That's down to alpha. That's what you have to learn how to do. You have to learn how to do that. It takes practice. It takes skill. It's not easy, but anything worthwhile, is it easy? Right? But it's worth it. Until then, family, Moisar, I bless you all. We bless you all. For those who follow me also on Clubhouse, we have our discussions on Clubhouse every Saturday from 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to carry on the discussions. It's a way of communicating me directly on the Clubhouse, because it's like a conference call scenario. And as I say, over and over. Support what we're doing at NoopooCC.com. Go to Nuupoo.org and support the work. Support the work. Support Blackness. Help us build. Invest. Let's invest in each other. We have the power to change our conditions. It's just all about our decisions. Making the right knowledge decisions. Stop making the wrong knowledge decisions. Let's start making the right knowledge decisions. Each and every day, let's practice that. Celebrate Blackness. That's key. Until Moisar, I wadu, and I bid you well.